Wentz steps up. Here comes the rush. He is going deep, and it is caught. And in for a touchdown, Deshaun Jackson.
Give the people what they want.
As we record this today, Reuben, is December 1st, and Doug Pederson was asked his first question about job security, and it was a fair one.
Yeah, Dave, if you had told me 3 months ago that we'd be sitting here on December 1st talking about Doug Pederson getting fired, you know, there's so much optimism in training camp and the preseason. You know, I would have thought you were nuts. How did we get here?
I don't know. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Our buddy Barrett Brooks will join us soon. We have some news to get to on the transactional front. But first, I think we have to start with Doug Pederson. He was first asked on Tuesday, if he had been given any assurances about finishing out the season. He said no, one way or the other. I mean, I anticipate that even if there's a move, he'll get to finish out the season. But after that, who knows? And he said all the right things. He's focused on what he can control, and that's the way he has to go about it. But I mean, he knows the situation. He's been around this league long enough to know that when a team performs like this, the first target is on the head coach.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say he's coaching for his job. I'd be surprised if he's not. I think Jeff Lurie wants to see how he handles the situation. And, you know, every year that this team has struggled early, Doug's found a way to get them to bounce back. I certainly don't see that on the horizon, but they're allowed to go win a few games at some point. So we'll see what happens. It's not certainly what I expected from this season. I didn't think it'd be great. I think I picked them 9-7. That's, they would, that's not going to happen. But they'd have to go 6 and -1 for that to happen. I'm doing the math in my head, but I just didn't see this coming. I don't think Doug saw it coming. And I get that it's an unusual season. Everything's crazy this year, but not a lot of teams are this bad. You know, they're in Bengals, Jets, Jaguars territory here, and something's definitely wrong.
Yeah, and they can miss me with all the weird season stuff because everyone else had to deal with it too. It's been tough to watch, and I asked Doug today about his relationship with Jeffrey and, if he feels that pressure coming from him, and he didn't really answer it, but he has to, right? I mean, he said that they meet weekly. What do you think those meetings have been like recently?
I know they play a lot of backgammon.
I mean, it just has to be a really uncomfortable scenario, right? I mean, imagine if you had a normal job and your performance wasn't very good, but everyone else knew it. Like, there's no hiding here. It's such a public job, and everyone knows when you're not doing your job. Everyone knows when you're not having success. It's a brutal business. I mean, it is, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they sit around and talk about, Doug getting fired and you have to do this to save your job. I'm sure they're talking more, micro stuff. What are you doing to get Carson turned around? What's going on with Mile? Whatever it is. I don't think Jeff Lurie's the kind of owner that's going to, he's not Jerry Jones or Dan Snyder here. He's not going to say, you got to win 2 of your last 5 games to save your job.
Sure. But I think all those micro things in this scenario have a different weight to them, right? If Jeffrey Lurie makes a suggestion right now, if I'm Doug, I'm going, well, if I do what he wants, maybe it'll save my job.
I think that's fair. When things went bad at Andy's last year in 2012, and I think Andy knew it was time for a change. He knew he was gone. We all knew he was gone. we knew Chip was gone. I wonder what Doug thinks. I wonder if he's got that. I mean, there are times where he comes off as almost resigned to all this, which I think a team can sense, and it doesn't help. But yeah, I would love to know what Jeff's thinking. I'd love to know what those conversations are like. And Jeff Lurie is going to support Doug any way he can down to the last day that he makes a change. I mean, that's the kind of owner he is. I don't think he wants to fire him, but it might be inevitable. He might have no choice.
Yeah, it's so strange because the last 2 times he's fired a head coach, it's been like really different circumstances. Maybe not with the team success, but certainly with the individual. I mean, they had a party for Andy immediately after they fired him. Like everyone knew that situation. And then firing Chip with that was kind of almost a little bleep you to Chip, firing him in that way. I think he has too much respect for Doug to do it.
Yeah.
Don't you? I mean,
he's not getting fired during the season. There's no way.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't want Chip in the building. He was just like, the sooner I can get him out of the building, the better. I just don't want him around my players one more day. And I don't think he feels that way. I mean, Doug, he's not going to embarrass Doug. There's no reason to. Yeah, this isn't baseball where or hockey where, in hockey teams fire their coach and the new coach takes them to the Stanley Cup. I mean, football's different because – a new coach can't come in and change the scheme and all that. So that you have an interim coach who's got to be, would have to be one of the current coaches. And it's just a whole different, the only reason you do it during the season is because you just don't want that guy around your team anymore. And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't either. But the season's starting to have that feeling. And it's hard to describe it, but you've been around these seasons. I've been around these seasons. I have a feeling to them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think any of them have ever taken me by surprise. We had a very good sense that Buddy Ryan was going to get fired after the 90 season. They had lost 3 straight playoff games, 2 straight home wildcard games. We obviously knew Kotite was going to get fired after losing his last 7 games after starting out 7-2. We knew Ray Rose was going to get fired after the 3-13 season. Phil Sheridan even wrote a lead during the last month of the year when the Eagles. I mean, that was the worst team, and it was Ray's last year in '95, and I'm sorry, in '98, and he wrote. I think the Eagles had lost to Dallas. It was like their 9th straight loss. And Phil's lead in the Inquirer was the Ray Rhodes farewell tour swung through Dallas yesterday. That's how much we knew. Obviously, with Andy, everybody knew he was going to get fired after 2012. Chip, I remember saying on Quick Slants that day that I wouldn't be surprised if Lurie pulls the plug early, and he did. So I didn't really. We didn't know it was going to happen that day or before the end of the season, but we all knew it was going to happen because they just hated each other. I don't think any of them have really taken me by surprise, and they've all turned out to be the right move.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. That he's had a really good track record of hiring coaches. I mean they've had success with all of them.
Yeah, I mean, Ray Rose was coach of the year his first year. Kotite, was fired after his first year that Lurie owned the team. Andy, obviously the best coach in Eagles history. Chip was coach of the year in 2013. I mean, he won 10 games twice, which is more than Doug Pederson has won 10 games. And Doug comes in and wins the Super Bowl. I mean, he hasn't hired a bad coach. They've all gone bad, but they all started out well.
All coaches get fired.
They all do. It really makes you appreciate a guy like, Tomlin, Belichick, obviously the greatest ever. The guys that can do it over the long haul. I mean, it's rare. I remember Andy saying after he got fired after 2012, there's just a certain point where your voice just doesn't, your message isn't getting through anymore. And it doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It doesn't mean there's a bad team. It just, so if you can get to that point where you're winning year after year. I mean, that's, Pete Carroll. I mean, God, they never have bad seasons. I'm not sure I'd put Harbaugh quite in that class. I think he's close. They're good most of the time. There's a very, very small group of guys like that. And, if you had told me, I remember Rich Hoffman from the Daily News saying after Kotite that one year when 92, they beat the Saints in the postseason game and wild card game down there. I remember Rich Hoffman saying, you guys are going to have to cover this guy for 10 years, because we couldn't stand him. He's a terrible coach, and they kept winning because they had so many good players. They won despite him. And Rich Hoffman, he's like, this guy's going to be your problem for the next decade. 2 years later, he was fired. But yeah, it's. I think Jeff Lurie, and then we're going to get a little ahead of ourselves. I think he's got a really good feel for head coaches, when to hire him and when to fire him. So we'll see.
All right, let's move on. Because the Eagles did make a move on Tuesday. They're planning on releasing Will Parks, which is kind of a shame from the standpoint of he was really excited to come back to his hometown. They came into the season with what we thought were like big expectations and a big role for him. And that just never played out. He played in 6 games after he came back from the hamstring injury. Minimal. I think he played like 15% of the snaps, never really saw the field, never really seemed to fit in. It just seems like another disconnect between front office and coaching staff.
Yeah, and when they signed him, we weren't quite sure what his role would be, and we never found out. We just, he was there, and yeah, it's kind of a shame because he was so excited to come back here. A guy from Northeast Philly. It should have been, he was really excited to wear that jersey. He grew up an Eagles fan. And what did he play? 10 snaps last night. I just don't know where he fit in. It's kind of, and look, it's not a move that cost him anything. He was a low price guy. He's not the problem.
It wasn't nothing though. It was 1.5. I mean, it's not like
it was a little over minimum.
A little bit over minimum.
But I know it's frustrating for fans because it's like, why can't they cut Alshon? Why can't they cut Deshaun? Why can't they cut Jason Peters? You just can't because of the dead money. You just can't cut a guy that's going to add anything at this point, any dead money to your cap, because you're in so much trouble with the cap. So as tempting as it might be, and I think it would make fans feel better for a day or two if they cut Alshon. Can't do it. So there you go. It sounds like they want to see Graylin Arnold, young rookie.
I'd like to see Kayvon Wallace.
Drafted him. Who I don't think played any snaps on defense yesterday. I don't believe.
I don't think so. He's only had like 6 in the last month and a half.
Yeah. So, last year it was Zach Brown and who was the other guy they cut? There was another one. I don't remember. I've blocked it out. Sendejo, Skandrick after a week or two. God, did that really happen? Was he really here?
Happened.
I remember walking into the press room and everyone's glued to the TV at the frat house. It's like, Orlando Skandrick's going off.
I forgot about that.
Why? Who cares? Yeah, guy's TV audition. Malcolm was funny that day in the locker room. he MF'd that guy so many times. It was awesome.
He did.
That was a lot of fun. But anyway, this isn't the kind of move that's going to set an example or anything. He's kind of a fringe player. And, I think if they do, play the young guys a little more, then that's a good thing. But it's not like Parks was an old guy either. He was.
Yeah, he's 26.
He's a young player. He's a young
kid. Mean, and this is like another thing where, Jim is playing his guys. We're seeing Jalen Mills play all these snaps. In hindsight, I wish we could have seen Will Parks there because there was nothing saying Will Parks couldn't have been the answer there for a longer term deal. I mean, him and Jalen were both on 1-year deals.
We kind of thought whoever had the better year would get a contract.
Yeah. And, Jim is just so loyal to Jalen Mills that he's the guy on the field all the time. He's been okay. I mean, he's been okay. I don't think he's the answer at that position. But, like, why couldn't we see Will Parks? Why couldn't we see how he would handle that position? It just doesn't make sense to me. I think he's younger. And we know what Jalen is. Like, I think even a safety, we know what Jalen is. We never saw what Will Parks was. And, there's a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff because of that. And I kind of got the sense Will Parks never really fit in the building either. But come on, like it's a little thing in a big season, but that annoys me.
Will Parks played 39 snaps in his first game, which is the Ravens game, 17 against the Giants, 28 against the Cowboys. But then the last 3 games, he's played only 30 snaps. He obviously only played 6 games because he's been hurt.
Yeah. They were trying to trade him. I mean, so they shouldn't be that much of a surprise that they eventually cut him. He's a guy, like, you watch me, he has some juice. There's some juice there. Play him.
114 snaps and he's gone. Like, what are you going to learn about a player in 114 snaps? Yeah.
Got to play Jalen. Got to play Epsy.
Epsy?
Yeah. Schwartz calls him. Once you get a nickname, you're in. You're locked and loaded.
Yeah, he likes those hockey nicknames. It's just, the Epsy. Yeah. I think Jalen, 2017, Jalen Mills was a special player. He really was. His end zone work, especially obviously on Julio, but really all year he was so good in the end zone as a corner. Battled. He's just a guy now. I mean, he
was always just a guy.
No, he was good that year. He had like 3 picks. He was knocking balls down. He had a pretty serious foot injury. I mean, I don't think he's been the same guy since that. I mean, I think he never had great speed, but I think in 17 he could run a little bit, and
maybe a little bit.
Yeah,
he's not a bad player. I mean, he's an NFL player, but he's not good.
Yeah, and for a 7th round pick, he's had a nice career for himself, but it's time to move on. I think everyone understands that. So, we'll see.
I mean, hopefully, as much as I don't think they gave Will Parks a fair shake, hopefully this kind of signals a little bit of a youth movement. I mean, you play Graylin Arnold more, you play Kayvon Wallace more. I'd like to see that at other positions, and we've talked about this a million times.
You got a youth movement. You don't play a 38-year-old guard and cut the 26-year-old safety. I mean, that's what kind of convoluted youth movement is that? Let's cut the 26-year-old guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, I'd play Herbig at right guard. I'd put Alshon right on the bench. I'd make a lot of those moves. It doesn't seem like they're going to do it.
Give me a young guy that you'd like to see a lot more of these last 5 games.
I just talked about him, so I feel like I've already said it, but Kayvon Wallace, I want to see him. 4th round pick, big program, not the most athletic kid in the world, but really instinctive, competitive. Like, he has the qualities that Jim Schwartz seems to like, and he can't find the field. I want to see more of that kid. And I thought he did some decent things when he got on the field earlier this year. It was a shame he got hurt. He got hurt on the special team. He made a heck of a special teams tackle. And he ended up getting hurt on. He missed the game, and they haven't really given him any snaps since then. At that position, they're so unsettled long-term that you'd think if you draft a guy in the 4th round, who a lot of people kind of thought was a steal at that point, that you maybe play him a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not happening. My guy is Michael Jacquet, and why not? I mean, I don't think I need to see any more Avonte Maddox out there at this point. We know what he is. We know what he can do, and I know it was only 1 game, but the 30 snaps he played against the Cowboys gave me at least the sense that I want to see more of him. And I thought he actually played pretty well in special teams yesterday. He played a lot on special teams. He's a physical guy. Why not? What do you have to lose at this point?
Yeah. Another one for me is Kennard Avery, who didn't play at all on defense.
One snap on defense yesterday.
I mean, we love Vinny. We love Vinny Curry. One of the best guys we've ever covered, right? I think that's fair to say. He's a great dude. He's 32 years old. Well, maybe he's a better player than Kennard Avery. Fine. But come on. Like, and this is one where, like, you would think the front office would be like, come on, play that kid, please, because we traded a pick for him. We got another year of him, right? He has one more year under contract. You'd like to see him at least get on the field. He had one big game earlier in the year. I think he had, a sack and a half through 3 games?
It was a 49ers game. He had like 6 hurries or something. Yeah, sack in that game. He's had one game. They traded a 4th-round pick. I mean, that's a pretty high price. He's not even getting on the field. There's definitely you definitely sense a disconnect between front office and coaching staff when these kind of things happen. Will Parks, they signed him. He plays 6 games. He's gone. You trade for a guy. He doesn't get on the field. That's a column I think you should write.
You draft a quarterback in the 2nd round.
Yeah, that too.
There's a lot. There's a lot of it.
Yeah. Hey, 'tis the season to thrill at the Nissan year-end sales event. Get in and get out and experience the most riveting ride of the year in a brand new Nissan. These savings on Nissan's lineup are sure to raise your pulse.
Joining us now on the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan, our good buddy Barrett Brooks. Barrett, how you doing, man?
Good. How's it going? Well, not too good. I mean, this is I'm getting too invested in this team, and I gotta appreciate the value that I have in my heart for this team at this point, or I'm gonna go crazy, man.
I don't like. It's funny, Barrett. At times this year, we've all convinced ourselves that they're going to turn it around.
Right.
You got fooled this week, didn't you?
I absolutely did. I thought it was a perfect storm, and it was building up to be that way. I mean, the way the defense came out and the way they played, and I just knew Carson was going to turn it around at some point and give me some semblance of even an average quarterback, and I didn't see it.
It's tough. This offense right now, I'm trying to remember another offense that's been this out of whack. I can't. I mean, this is really bad.
Barrett was on that 1998 team.
I was just about to say that. I was just like 3-13. Rube, you beat me to it. I was just about to say it. It sounds and feels just like it. I mean, from the quarterback playing as bad as he's playing, offensive line not playing well, and I was a part of that offensive line. It just is a bad mix of the perfect storm of just terrible football.
And that was Ray Rhodes last year. That offense was probably even worse than this one. There was no quarter. There was 3 different quarterbacks. I think that team averaged 11 points a game.
No offensive coordinator. Remember that? Dana Bible got demoted, and who was it? Bill Musgrave. Wasn't he a quarterback? He was on a team. He was on a roster the year before, wasn't it?
He was in training camp that summer with somebody,
right?
And he got cut. And he was like a quality control coach. And the Eagles went into San Diego, and Ray Bob took play calling duties, took OC coordinator duties away from Dana Bible, gave him to Bill Musgrave. The Eagles were averaging 12 points a game. Actually, did worse with Musgrave, averaged 9 points a game. That was actually that game in San Diego. Bill Musgrave's first game as offensive coordinator. The Eagles lost to Ryan Leaf. This was one of his 3 wins of his career.
Barry, what's that like being on an offense like that? That just it looks like you're trying to like tread through molasses.
You just can't get right no matter how hard you try. It seems like everybody's on a different page. Nobody's playing in concert with each other. And I think that's what it is. Each person takes their turn at being bad on that specific play. And once you get 5 or 6 guys doing the same bad things, it just tends to turn into just a minuscule statistical offense. And back in 98, our offense the year before had a real offensive coordinator. You know, we had Chucky, you know, and you know what he was. You know, he would tell our quarterback, look, Bobby Hoying, throw the ball right here. I don't care if they pick it off in practice, throw the ball right here. So what he did was he cut the field in half and instructed Bobby Hoying. I'm talking about Gruden. I call him Chucky, but Gruden, tell him to throw to this specific guy. You throw it to if it's 322 watch stick nod, you throw it to that tight end, you throw it to that nod route. He didn't teach him how to read the offense, read the defense, so he couldn't really run the offense. So long story long, he turns down a $20 million contract over 4 years and says, no, I want more money. I want to make the same money as a guy that went to Buffalo, and didn't sign the contract. So he goes into this next year. This offense is terrible because at that point Gruden left and went to the Raiders. And from that point on, he had nobody telling him where to throw the ball. He had nobody telling him how to read a defense, you know, what to do in certain situations. And it just went downhill from that. He would hold the ball. You think Carson holds the ball? He would hold the ball for like literally 5 seconds and still not know where to go with the ball. So it was just a perfect storm of just mess. It was the worst situation. It's the worst football I ever played in my life. I mean, it was horrible. It was my last year also.
But the difference was that, I mean, Bobby Hoying had one game in his life that he had that good game against the Bengals. Carson Wentz is a Pro Bowler, was in the MVP race. By the way, the guy that went to Buffalo was Rob Johnson.
Rob Johnson, that's right.
There you go.
Yeah, he got 4 for 25. That's what he wanted.
Yeah, he had played for Jacksonville, I think. He was a free agent. But anyway, that was worse. But, I mean, Bobby Hoying, nobody really expected him. I mean, he had one good game in his career. Carson was coming off 3 seasons where he threw, 70-some-odd touchdowns and 21 interceptions. So circumstances are sure different. That didn't take anybody really by surprise. That was an older team. I think that team's leading receiver is Jeff Graham. Right. There was no good players on that team. Deuce was pretty good, but it was an old team. That was like, that offensive line. I think Ian Beckles was playing on it. Wasn't it Ian Beckles on him? So that was an old kind of we knew that thing was going down the tubes. I didn't see this coming. That's the big difference for me.
Well, me neither. And that's the problem. I did not see Carson. I cannot visualize Carson being this bad. In fact, I still wake up every day and in a cold sweat, like, who is this guy? I don't think this is Carson. It can't be Carson because I've seen him do too many great things. Even the latter part of last year, those last 4 games, he made lemonade with young lemons. I mean, young lemons. He made some things happen I hadn't seen before from young guys. Where did these guys, Greg Ward Jr., where did he come from? He was a product of getting those guys ready to play and taking them to the next level. And, it worked last year. This year, I don't know. I mean, I can't define, I can't figure out why Carson is playing so bad. It's just ridiculous.
And it's weird. One of the excuses we've heard this year is that he's got young receivers out there. But you're right. I mean, last year he was out there with a bunch of young guys too, and they figured out ways to make it work. It's really confusing.
Jefferson's a young receiver. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Young receivers, you look around the league and you look at what DK did last year, what Terry McLaurin did last year with some of these guys, Debo. Some of these, young receivers is not an excuse anymore. Receivers come into the league now because I think college offenses are running pro-style schemes now. They're not running, real basic offenses. They're running pro-style schemes. So receivers are coming into the league ready to go, plug and play. So that's not an excuse.
You're absolutely right. They're different from when I played. You still had a couple of those option-type offenses that receivers came. A guy like Irvin Fryer came from an option-type team, even though he was the number 1 pick. He was a receiver that came from an option team in Nebraska. These receivers these years come off passing offense. They have pro route combinations. They have guys that have been at the NFL level that come back and start coaching them. So, I can't make any more excuses for why Carson's not playing well because it's, I can't even say the offensive line. Out of the 40 sacks that he's given up, 33 of those sacks have come with protection being 4 seconds or more. The average player as a wide receiver, as an offensive lineman, you want to make sure you get 2.5 to 3 seconds is ample time for a quarterback to deliver the ball to whoever he needs to deliver to, even at a 7-step drop. But to get 4 seconds on 33 of those sacks, that means he's holding the ball way too long. You can't, you just can't allow yourself to be in those type of situations and get sacked when you're given the time. So either he doesn't know the offense well enough to know where guys are going to be, and or the guys around him are not mature enough to be where they're supposed to be. I don't see him pulling the trigger, throwing guys open. Those are all things I see other quarterbacks doing, but I don't see Carson doing.
To me, it's kind of been like this weird spiral that, the offensive line is bad, and now Carson has happy feet, and the receivers aren't getting open, and now Carson's not trusting them to be where they're supposed to be. And it kind of it just keeps going back and cycling through that, some of these are almost like self-fulfilling prophecies when you're talking about quarterback play, because at times I think he is seeing ghosts back there. At times I think he is hesitant. I think we've seen a few times he'll double clutch before a throw because he's not really trusting that a receiver is going to break at the right moment. And that stuff is all mental. And that's what's really scary here, because, if it was one thing, you could fix it, but it's a lot of things. And if it's between the ears, now we're talking about, this isn't just a this year thing. This is potentially changing this guy's entire career, changing the course of the franchise. And at this point in the season, it's pretty clear that we're in that territory. This is not something that's going to just be a quick fix.
You're absolutely right. This is something that's, dare I say, is not being coached out of him, or not being coached at all, or who's in his ear right now telling him and making him aware of the situational football that he's missing. And that's what's going on. It's a lot of situational football that he's not excelling at. You see a lot of these other quarterbacks, when it's third down, you understand they're going to bring a blitz. You got to know where your hot reads are. You got to understand who you need to dump it off to. Who's going to be that hot linebacker? And if the offensive line is going to pick the guy up. Those are all things in your maturation as a quarterback that you have to know. You need to know. So if it's not working, it has a lot to do with you not knowing your plays and getting into your playbook and getting these other guys ready. If it takes you going over and telling a receiver, hey, you got to break it off at 12, then tell him, damn it, break it off at 12. Or, if it's one of those things where he's not getting off the slant, or he's not getting off the – and I see this a lot. Receivers, instead of them running routes that are trying to get open, they're running into the DBs, not leaning on them, not creating separation. That just comes from not being coached right at the wide receiver position, which is going to lead now to routes taking longer to get open. Now Carson has to wait a little longer, and now the offensive line is going to break down because they're holding guys all day. It's just a vicious cycle until we learn to do more things. And then you got the coaching situation, we're not rolling out. We're not moving the pocket. You're making them stay in the pocket. Those are all things that can be controlled from a coaching standpoint. So a lot of these coaches got to be held accountable. The wide receivers at this point are not playing well, and it has a lot to do with the new wide receiver coach.
It's interesting to me that, who were the Eagles' leading receivers yesterday? Goddard, Richard Rodgers, Boston Scott, running backs and tight ends. And that's really been, other than the few games where Travis Fulgham got hot, that's been Carson's comfort zone. He's just early on, he hit Hightower for a couple big plays. He hit Rager early a couple times. It just seems like as the years gone by, he's just kind of started focusing more on tight ends and a little bit of the backs. The wide receivers had 45 yards combined yesterday, all of them added up. He just doesn't trust them. And I think there's something to that. But, the whole group is regressing, and getting Alshon in there certainly doesn't help, because now you're taking reps away from these young guys.
Well, do you think that's a direct reflection of Moorhead being the coach? Because all these positions that you talk about that are starting to excel and get better are guys that have been in this offense. What is it, Justin Peels, the tight end coach? Who's the tight end?
Yeah, Justin Peels, Chip brought him in 13.
Yeah, and then you have Deuce with the running back coaching. Those are coaches that have been in this system, understand this system a little more. Moorhead at this point, I don't see him make the progression of getting these guys ready. But what is this, the fifth guy that's been in wide receiver coach in the last 5 years?
I don't know if it's the coach anymore. I don't know. He's the fifth wide receiver. He's really the sixth wide receiver coach in 6 years. You go back to to chips last year, but at some point you got to say, maybe it's not the coach.
Right.
Or maybe it's the coaches above that coach. I mean,
Yeah.
because the constant has been Doug, and the constant has been, I guess, press to a certain extent. And you have to look at it like, what's more likely? They've had 5 awful receivers coaches, or there's something else there.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, the one receivers coach they had that was, at least production-wise pretty good was Mike Rowe, and they made the mistake of trying to promote him. But, yeah, after a certain point, you have to wonder,
Mike Rowe was an upgrade.
Yeah, no, you're right. And he was kind of scapegoated last year. And there's no Mike Rowe to fire this year.
Well, that's going to be the problem,
Well, Press Taylor, fire Press Taylor, and if
having that
job, he'll be the scapegoat, and they'll bring in just another Press Taylor.
That's not good enough.
No, it's not.
So, do you guys think that it's still Doug's job to lose, or is it the circumstance where Doug wants to leave? Where are we at this point? Do you think we're at this point?
Yeah, I don't buy the he wants to leave thing. I think, the Doug Pederson I know, when things get really bad, he's going to want to be the guy to fix it. He's going to want to be the guy. If you're a competitor, you want to be the guy to turn things around. You want to be the guy to get it kick-started. So I don't see that in his DNA, unless there's something else going on, a personality conflict with Howie or something. That certainly wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just speculating. But I don't sense that. It's really hard to sense what Doug's thinking because he's so all over the place when we do talk to him. It's really hard to get a feel for what he's thinking and what he's feeling. One day it's angry Doug, the next day it's resigned Doug, the next day it's desperate Doug. It's just he puts on these personas. I don't really know what he's thinking, but I don't think that's the case. I do think that Jeff Lurie, and Barry, you've been around him long enough to know this is not the kind of product he wants, and he's embarrassed by what he sees. And I really believe that if things don't get better these next 5 weeks, and I don't see any reason they will, I think there's a really good chance he will make a change.
Wow. It's tough.
It's crazy. It's funny because, Barry, you talked about like waking up every morning, like, how did Carson get to this point? I'm kind of that way with the whole thing. It's like,
right.
And if you look back in hindsight, you can kind of see the regression to 18, 19, and now, but it's such a steep drop off this year
right.
that it's kind of shocking. We're less than 3 years from them hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, and we're talking about possibly being the end for the head coach. It's amazing to me that we've gotten to this point, but it's all really valid. I never thought in week 13 of this season we'd have to ask Doug Pederson about his job security, but we're here. We're just here.
And I wrote about this today. When Jeff Lurie, when the season ends, he's going to say, does Doug Pederson give me the best chance to win a Super Bowl of any possible coach? And, from what I've seen of Doug this year, the answer is no. Does he seem like a guy who's about to take this team on? You think about like John Harbaugh had, he won a Super Bowl and then they had like 3 straight losing seasons. I thought Steve Bisciotti was going to fire him, but he talked about how he met with Harbaugh and this guy is the guy to get us back to where we were. Well, they haven't done that, but they have been, pretty good. I don't see that happening here. I don't see, I certainly don't see a head coach that's equipped right now to lead this team to another trophy. I don't see it happening. So if you're the owner, you owe it to your franchise to bring in someone who gives you the best chance to do that. And maybe Jeff will be, loyal to Doug and give him another year, like he gave Big Red another year in 2012. That didn't go so well. But man, if they finish, what are they going to win? Another game, another 2 games, maybe. They could be like a 4-11-1 team. You really going to keep your coach after a season like that? Super Bowl or not? I don't know. I don't think so.
That's tough. You make real points when you say that, can this coach lead this team to a Super Bowl? And You're right. I can't say that he will.
Can't even get a first down. How are you going to win a
Right.
Super Bowl? You can't even get a first down against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL.
Yeah, we thought that was going to be the worst secondary in the world. They didn't look bad yesterday, did they?
Never got challenged.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to get into Jeff Lurie's head, but man, when I try to, and Dave and I were talking about this yesterday. Jeff likes, and Dave made this point that his vision of NFL offense is cutting edge, innovative, high powered, aggressive, just this like modern model of cutting edge, innovative offense.
Like
and
the Rams?
Polar opposite.
Yep.
Is this plotting, incoherent, mess. And it's the exact opposite of what Jeff Lurie wants in a football team. And to me, that's even worse than the record, is just what they are as a team. I mean, because whether they're 5-11 or 12-1, whatever it is, that offensively they're an embarrassment week after week after week. And Doug's shown no ability to change it. And I think when Jeff Lurie looks at that, I don't know how he doesn't really consider making a change.
Terrible situation, just understanding, what Jeff Lurie is, and he's made it a point to make the gold standard as, a part of the conversation when you talk about the Eagles. Well, I don't see any standard that's gold right now. I see a lot of tinfoil standard, and I don't see them guys going out there. And it's not like they're not giving the effort; they're giving the effort, but it's almost to a mute point. I mean, what point is being given on the opposite side of the ball? How can you define the opposite side of the ball? They have no identity. They don't run the ball well. They don't pass the ball well. They don't run screens well. They don't press the ball down the field well. I mean, what is their definition? You at least at some point know what the team is that you're dealing with, whether it's a heavy defensive team or it's a heavy offensive team. We don't even have great special teams anymore. And that used to be our thing. Our special teams used to be we were talking about we were talking about Phip being a candidate for a head coaching job, a couple of years ago. But now, I mean, I'm glad they started catching punts, because they went, about 2 weeks without even doing that. So, I mean,
the one thing they can really hang their hat on is they're really good against the run, and they've been pretty solid against opposing running backs, and they were again last night. That gives you a chance. I think defensively they've been, they play hard. The D line I think is underachieved a little bit. They had a good game last night, but they have that. That's really it. I mean, that's really, and Doug has nothing to do with that. So I think that's kind of when you face the Eagles, they're gonna stop the run and they're gonna play hard. That's about it. But offensively, you're right. I mean, there is. Who are they? What are they? What's their concept? What are they trying to do? How are they trying to attack? And Doug talks about, they ran the ball, 9 times yesterday? And Doug's answer is, well, they were doing some things that, we didn't feel like we could run the ball. If you're a commanding running team, you run the ball. You don't give up on it. And I think about the Browns game when Chubb was like 19 for 26, and Stefanski kept giving him the ball. And like on that 20th run, he goes like 58 yards or something, because you keep pounding it. A running back gets a feel for the defense, and eventually you're going to hit the home run. Miles never gets a chance to do that because Doug.
Identity. You're right. They have an identity.
As an offensive lineman, what's it like when the run pass ratio is so out of whack? Like yesterday, it was 53 to 12. As far as pass plays to running plays, how tough is it to pass block when the defense knows you're going to throw the ball snap after snap and they can just tee off?
And that's the worst thing, because you always feel as though you're scrambling. You always feel as though you're not attacking. You're backing up at all times, and it's tough, especially when you have a quarterback that likes to hold the ball. You want to be aggressive, but you can't, because if you whiff being aggressive, I mean, you're going to get the guy killed. So you're trying to go out there. You're trying to play stable football. You're trying to play assignment correct football, but it still feels as though you're being passive throughout the entire game. You're not given a chance to really come off the ball and initiate contact. See, people don't understand when you're playing the game backwards like that, it's tough. You're going against a guy that could, if you look at Dunlap, if Carlos Dunlap and whoever he was playing against, he was playing against Jordan Mailata. They lined up head to head and ran a 40-yard dash. Dunlap would kill him. He'd beat him by 20 yards. But now you're asking him to back up backwards and set at a point and get there before Carlos Dunlap can get there and block a guy for 4, 5, 6 seconds. That's a tough thing to do, time in and time out for 50 plays. There's going to be some time you're going to get some leakage. And then everybody says, oh, you did a bad job. Well, hell, you just did it for 55 times. Out of that 55 times, those guys on the other side of the ball get paid too. You want to be aggressive. You want to pose your will. That's the most demoralizing thing you can do to a defense is run the ball on them, and they can't do anything about it. You saw what happened in that Cleveland game. This game, they kept punching away until they started opening it up and they started gaining some yards. The Eagles have no identity to go out there and chip away like that. They don't throw short passes well. They don't throw intermediate passes well. They don't throw deep passes well. What does this offense do well? I don't know.
Yeah, they don't do much well.
They don't do anything well.
I'm really trying to think about what they do well.
Right.
There's nothing they do well.
No.
There's Carson's pretty good when they get him out of the pocket that one time per game.
Yes. I mean, is it a lie?
Boston Scott's a good receiver when you're down 30 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, how about that? We can't go to the tight ends. And I'm starting to think, what is going on with our tight ends? What is going on with Dallas Goedert? He is a weapon. Why aren't we getting the ball to him more? I mean, is it that he doesn't know the plays? Because on the interception, you could tell those two aren't on the same page. He's got to get back on the same page. He's got to go out there and be a reliable pass catcher for Carson. Because other than that, I don't see anything. Him and Richard Rodgers are the guys that are making some hay and playing well, and I see he's starting to get a little confidence in him. I mean, for us not to go to Travis Fulgham until the third quarter is, it's amazing to me. What is going on?
Yeah, that Goddard play is a really good example of the trust issues Carson Wentz has this season, because on that play, it's inside leverage. You would think Goddard would take it outside, and that's where Carson throws it. It looks like a terrible pick because Carson throws it to the defensive back, but yeah, I mean, Goddard probably should have been there. And the next time they run that play, don't you think it's going to be in the back of Carson's mind? Like, is my player going to be there? Is he actually going to be in the right spot?
Or is it going to be interception 17?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've seen all year. I agree with you, though. I mean, Goddard's hell, they don't have many weapons. He at least is a weapon. They got to get him the ball. They got to figure out a way to get Miles Sanders more involved. The drops have to stop. I mean, some of that's on Miles, but you gotta give him the rock. Got to find ways to get him involved. He's your best player offensively.
Right, you're absolutely right on that. He is your best player. Find a way to feature him. I don't care what it is. Just hand the ball to him and let him run. I mean, whatever it takes to get the ball in his hands, do it. But you can't give up on a guy like that. You can't give up on a guy like Dallas Goedert. You can't get up on Travis Fulgham. I mean, they didn't all of a sudden just stop learning how to play. They still know how to play, but you have to execute an offense that's, customized to their skill set. You got to move Carson around. And I mean, it's almost as like Doug's lying to us when he's saying he's going to do that. It's a flat-out lie now, because I can't believe that he's going to do it. I can't believe anything he's going to say in the press conference that he's going to do it on game day.
Yeah, it seems like he's lost every time we talk to him. I mean, he has about as many answers as we do right now. And that's really what it kind of boils down to is, if there was any semblance that this guy could figure it out, I don't know if we'd be having the same, at least level of conversations about his job security. But the fact that he looks as lost as the rest of us, it doesn't really instill much confidence.
Yeah, his only answers are we got to work harder. I mean, what kind of answer is that? We got to work harder and injuries. I mean, it's the same stuff week after week. I don't think he has any idea what to do, how to do it. The fact that we're sitting here in week 13 and saying the same things we said in week 2, I mean, it's gotten worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a stretch where they scored, 29 against the Steelers and 28 against the Ravens. So at least they were, Actually, that's when the defense was playing poorly, and the offense actually. There was a stretch there where you started to think, well, they were running the ball more. They were running it with some authority. Fulgham was involved, but now, I mean, it's gotten worse. It's gotten way worse.
Hey, Barrett, I asked Rube to do this last week, but for a second here, let's pretend that you're Doug Pederson. And I kind of hand you the reins. It's a new week. You have a week to game plan for the next game. What are you doing? What are you trying to change if you're Doug right now?
At this point, I'm going back to fundamental football. Football is football is football, no matter what level it is. If it's Pop Warner to high school to college to pro, you run the same plays. They just have different names. Let's find 10 offensive plays that we can run the ball with, 10 offensive plays we can pass the ball with. We're just going to run those plays over and over again. And then we're going to have plays to set up plays off those plays. I'm tired of just going out there and just pointing at the playbook and just running this play, that, and not setting everything up. I'm going to make sure my guys understand what to do, be fundamentally sound while they're doing it, and be assignment correct. If you mess up on a play, you're not playing, period, point blank. There's too many excuses out there. You got to go back to fundamentals. You mess up, you're out of there. You better know these 10 plays, these run plays, these 10 pass plays, and that's why we're running. If we have to go and run the first 20 plays or first 15 plays over and over again in order, we're going to do it. But we're going to be damn good at those plays. And that's the direction they're going to have to go. When I played for the Steelers, we didn't have a bunch of plays. We had a playbook with virtually that we went into a game with where virtually we had, and this is no lie, we had 8 pass plays, 5 run plays. And we ran the hell out of those plays. We didn't alter them in any way until we went to the second step of those plays. We set this up to go into that play. We kept everything basic. That way you take these plays and you're great at them. And you don't worry about who's or what you got up against you. You're going to run those plays successfully no matter what they put in front of you. And that's what you have to do. Sometimes these guys get so caught up into being, innovators that, what you're doing is not working. Give me something consistent. If you're going to move and you're going to move a guy around as far as, motions or something like that, then have motions in different formations that can run the same exact play. You can't go out with this playbook that's this big or the iPad that they use now and think that these guys are going to be able to run these plays consistently if they don't know what to do. And it's evident that they don't know what to do. So cut the playbook down, run 10 plays each, and don't worry about anything else. Make sure those guys know those exact plays and don't worry about anything else. They're fundamentally flawed right now.
You're hired. You got the job. That's it. All right, Barrett, we appreciate your time, man, and hopefully we'll see some of these changes be implemented. I have no faith that it's going to happen, but we'll see.
Me neither.
All right, we'll catch you next week, Barrett.
Come on, man. Take it easy, guy.
Hey, if you're a football fan, you need to check out this game Sunday night 7 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. There's no reason not to play. It's totally free, and it's got $2 million in guaranteed cash prizes this season with $100,000 up for grabs every week. All you have to do is make 7 predictions about what's going to happen on Sunday Night Football for your chance to win some serious money. Now download the NBC Sports Predictor app or head to NBCSports.com/predictor to make your Sunday Night 7 picks.
While we were talking to Barrett, the Eagles made the Will Parks move official. They promoted Graylin Arnold. And Sharif Miller also released from the practice squad. So a few moves, nothing major.
Sharif Miller, another 4th-round pick.
Yeah. I mean, 4th-rounders are really hit or miss. I mean, that was obvious miss. Josh Sweat, nice hit. 4th round. Avonte. Maybe
not.
Matt Collins, not so much. Avonte, I mean, for a 4th rounder, the depth piece. I mean, he shouldn't be starting outside, but they got to play an out of position. I think as a 4th round pick, he's fine. It's just they have too big a role for him.
No, that's true. Who's their last really good 4th round pick?
Probably Keenan Clayton.
Didn't he have a really big interception one game? I'm going to look this up. Just talk for a minute.
There's also Trevard Lindley.
That was the same draft, I think.
Was it?
I think so. All right, let's find our last really good fourth-round pick. There have been a few. Let's see.
Selleck was a 5, right?
Yeah, Matt Barkley. That worked out well. He's still playing. Listen, I mean, Donnell Pumphrey, Mac Hollins, Sharif Miller, Matt Barkley, Jalen Watkins. I think he's still in the league. Brandon Boykin had one really good year, but that was about it. Casey Matthews, Alex Henry, Trevard Lindley, Keenan Clayton, Mike Kafka, Clay Harbor, Mike McGlynn. He played in the league for a while, but not here. Quentin Demps, Jack Ikaguanu.
Demps had a long career. Not here.
Not here. Max Gene Gillis. Jason Avant might be their last really good fourth-round pick, and that was 21 fourth-round picks ago.
I like Sweat. I think Sweat's a pretty good player.
He had that one great play yesterday where he just – it kind of reminded me of Derek Burgess on Michael Vick in the 2004 NFC Championship game. He just kind of kept chasing him back and really did a nice job containing him. He's okay. He's a good fourth-round – he's a good player.
Yeah. You'll take that in the 4th round.
Yeah, but the last really good player they drafted in the 4th round was Jason Avant. That was 14 years ago. Harriman's was a 4th-round pick. He started like 130 games for this team.
At like every position imaginable.
Calder really was a really good player. David Moore had that great postseason in 2001. Clarence Love. Damian Robinson, he had a really good year for the Bucks one year. He was 97 4th-round pick. Ray Farmer became a good GM for the Browns for about 3 months.
How far are you going back here?
Willie T. Willie T is the last Pro Bowler they drafted in the 4th round. William Thomas, 91, 29 years ago. Hard to believe.
Yeah, it is. We wanted to finish it with this. Do the Eagles win another game?
I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
Do the Eagles win another game?
I had this conversation with Seth Joyner the other day, and I said they were going to win a game at some point, and he said no. I do think they will win a game.
Which one?
I don't know, but I don't think they're going to lose out. That would mean they lost their last 8 games, which is possible. You take each one individually, and it's certainly out there. Not going to be favored a whole lot. I know that much. They should get the Saints without Drew Brees, but that, I don't know if they could beat the Saints. They might, even if they had Archie Manning out there. I'm not sure they could beat the
Saints. Are a good team.
They are. I don't think they beat John Fourcade. You look at who knows who the Cowboys will be starting at quarterback when that game rolls around. They'll both be eliminated at that point from the NFC East, which is really sad.
That's going to be a big game because that'll have serious draft implications.
Sure will. They might not want to win that game, or the Giants.
That's a game they need to lose, honestly.
They need to, those 2 games, they need to start Kyle Lauletta at quarterback. And just take the L, try to get like a 6th round, the 6th pick or something.
Well, right now they're in spot. They had the 6th pick if the season ended now. The Cowboys have a better pick. So that's a big game. I think the Cowboys are 3 or 4. So if you can get ahead like that, the best they can probably do is get up to the 3rd pick. Best or worst, however you want to look at it.
Really good wide receivers who are going to be there that they could skip, they could bypass to take a long snapper.
That's the thing. It's like it's funny because we talk about at this point might as well end up with a good draft pick. The team's going to try to win, but the rest of us can look at it and say, yeah, maybe, it's the best case scenario is they end up with a good draft pick. And then it's just everyone goes, oh, how he's going to screw it up anyway. And that might be the case, but it's a lot harder to screw up one of those first 5 picks.
Yeah, it is. It does happen, but it's hard. And who knows if Howard will even be making that pick. There's not a huge chance, but there's a chance it won't be him. So, but yeah, if you can get a top 5 pick, man, you can, and that's what they need. They need those. They need stars. They don't have
cornerstone.
They don't have.
If they end up with a top 5 pick, even if they don't, if it's a top 10 pick, there's going to be so much pressure on nailing it because they need an infusion of young talent.
What's the highest they could go? I mean, they're not going to catch the Jets. You know,
They're not going to catch the Jaguars.
I love how you say that. The Jaguars. That's the car. Is it pronounced the same as the car?
Sure.
Like
Jaguars.
We got to ask Mike K about this. He's our authority.
What do you say? How did I pronounce it?
Jaguar. I don't know. Jaguar, which is the correct way to say it, but I just don't say it that way.
Jaguar, like on the
Jaguar.
commercials.
Yeah, it's like a 3-syllable thing, but yeah, they're not going to catch. They're not going to catch. Probably not going to catch Denver. I mean, Cincinnati. It could be a tiebreaker deal there, you know, because they each have a tie. But
Denver's 4-7.
Oh, they have 4 now. Okay,
Yeah,
they might not win another one.
Yeah, they might not. So ahead of them right now. This is via Tankathon, which they do a great job. Jets at 1, Jaguars 2, Bengals 3, Cowboys 4, Chargers 5, Eagles 6. You know, Chargers have an exciting young quarterback, pull out a game. But that Dallas Eagles game is going to be big.
Yeah. Man, if they could get like the 3rd or 4th pick. And again, this team has had 2 top 10 picks in the last 20 years.
And one of them they had to trade up to get.
One of them had to trade up to get. The other one was Lane coming off the 2012 season. So they've earned 1. And one of them's on IR, or not on IR, but he's hurt. The other one's having the worst season any quarterback's ever had. So, yeah. They got it. They have to do that. So, but I am going to say they're going to win a game. I don't know. Okay. They'll go in and beat Arizona. Arizona hasn't played as well lately. Kyler Murray's struggling a little bit. They're going to win a game, I think.
I tend to agree with you, but I'm also a little skeptical. Like I've told you before, I covered a team that won its first 2 games and lost out. So I'm always skeptical.
I covered a team that started out 3-1 and finished 4-12.
Yeah.
And a team that started out 7-2 and finished 7-9.
Yeah.
In both cases, the coach got fired.
Yeah. But when you're covering a team like that, it's easy to say they'll win one, but you keep saying it to yourself every week. They'll win one. They'll win one. And before you know it,
they didn't win one.
They didn't win one. Yeah. And that wouldn't shock me with this team. You got anything else?
No, let's.
I need to take a nap. Let's wrap this up.
Happy December, everybody.
Yeah. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For Reuben, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We will catch you guys soon.